Logan Paul versus AnEsonGib. Who would win if this fight were to happen? Let's find out. Logan Paul versus AnEsonGib. This is a question that I get every time in my comment section. Somebody posts this, so I'm going to be answering this in my opinion and who I think would win and how it would possibly go down. It's closer than you think. Gib has dealt with bigger opponents. Logan Paul is 6'1.5" and has a 73.5 reach. Tayler Holder, which is Gib's opponent, is 6'2" with a 6'2" reach. However, if I'm being honest, I think the tale of the tape is inaccurate because Tayler Holder does not look that much taller than 5'8" Gib. Most I see Tayler right now is about 5'11", so it's interesting. Regardless, Gib has actually shown a lot in the past while. He's shown that he has insane cardio and a really strong work ethic and a passion for boxing. Logan Paul, on the other hand, has a weak mentality. He is the complete opposite of his brother. He has a weak will to win. He always has his hands down when he fights. And unlike his brother, I feel like Logan Paul is far less consistent in terms of training than his brother is. And natural talent, I think Jake Paul is much more talented than Logan Paul. I feel like most people are leaning towards Logan in this fight, but is it possible for Gib to beat Logan? I believe Gib has a much stronger will to win and much stronger cardio, but is that enough to beat Logan? In Logan's most recent fight with Floyd, Logan did not show that much significant improvement. He still fights with his hands down. His defense is terrible. In terms of technique, I don't see too much of a difference. It might be because he's fighting a much harder opponent than KSI. Regardless, he had a terrible hand placement against Floyd. And for his defense, I feel like Logan Paul relies too much on observation instead of actually having his hands up. And if Gib fought Logan, then I feel like Gib could pressure Logan to a point where Logan would have to fight in a different way and have his hands up. We saw the way Gib fought against Holder. Gib stayed the aggressor. He pressured Holder to the point where Holder wasn't really ready, especially since Gib kept the same aggressive pace and stayed the aggressor throughout the whole fight. Logan Paul does not deal with pressure as well as his brother Jake Paul does. The argument I see people using all the time is that Logan Paul would beat Gib because Jake Paul beat Gib, and Logan Paul is Jake Paul's brother. It's not a valid argument. While Logan Paul may be successful as a grappler and a wrestler, and he may be more successful in MMA, but Jake Paul is much more successful in boxing because he's got a more driven mentality and he's got a more of a killer instinct. Right now, I feel like Gib has a much stronger mentality than Logan Paul does, and I feel like Gib, if this fight were to happen, if this fight was set up, I feel like Gib would be much more desperate to win than Logan Paul would be. However, Logan Paul has shown that he is also able to counter punch, and in Gib's fight with Holder, Holder was even able to get some shots on Gib. And if this fight did happen, I'd imagine Logan Paul would throw much more than Holder did, and Logan would be more prepared for Gib than Holder really was. Holder was not prepared. He was overwhelmed by Gib being aggressive throughout the whole fight and his pace. A good example of Logan Paul counterpunching is in the second KSI v Logan fight. He was able to see KSI's punch and hit him back with an uppercut. However, I don't think Gib is as predictable as KSI when it comes to punching. It is a stretch. But also with Gib, we've seen that Gib is able to improve drastically in small amounts of time. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Gib would give Logan Paul a run for his money and give him a really hard time, especially since Logan Paul has not been training as much as Gib has in the past year. He only started training about maybe in December. I think it was when his fight with Floyd was announced, he started to get back up and get back into gears because Floyd was a huge step up from KSI. But I feel like after the fight, I think Gib did straight up train non-stop. There was a whole period where Gib didn't upload. And I think he dealt with the loss correctly. I think something people should really learn is that Gib, he worked non-stop, and hopefully something people like Deji could learn from. Now, I have an unpopular opinion. I felt like Logan Paul, he just looked worse than he did in his last fight. Maybe it's because he went up against the greatest of all time, but I just didn't see any significant improvement from Logan Paul in that fight, which is why I feel like Gib really does have a chance in this fight. Now, a lot of people are using this argument to back up Logan Paul is that he fought 4 people at the same time, and I think their names are the Grung Kao Wazowski, or the Grung. I don't know how to say it. I'm sorry, I do not know how to pronounce it. I forgot. But if I'm being honest, they all look like non-boxers. I don't think they even are boxers. They did not look that good. Honestly, I think this is the definition of, size does not equal skill. And I feel like Taylor Holder is better than all of these guys. Yeah, I just don't think they're fighters right now. I don't see anything from them. They look like maybe like football players or weightlifters or wrestlers, but I don't think they are actually fighters. Yeah, Logan Paul is just too much for them. You can tell his reaction speed is terrible, and that Logan Paul is just out, like, he's just, he's overwhelming them all. And yeah, this will be an interesting matchup between these two. Gib has shown that he has been able to improve significantly in small amounts of time within a year. And with Logan Paul, probably one of the best YouTube boxers out there right now, it'd be an interesting matchup since these two are kind of like in the top tier and in more of the better half of YouTube boxing. If this fight were to happen anytime soon, I feel like Logan Paul would win since he has too much on Gib. But if this fight had a while before it actually happened, it'd be interesting since we don't know how much Gib can really improve in that kind of time. But regardless, I think Logan Paul is still a big threat despite being, a little bit worse than his brother. I feel like Jake Paul is just much more skilled and talented and overall more dedicated to the sport than Logan Paul is. I feel like realistically it's more fair to say that Logan Paul takes this. I think right now, especially since Gib just beat Holder, I feel like Logan Paul is just too much for Gib. I don't think Gib is ready for it, but in a while it could be possible that I could see Gib winning this. But let me know who you guys think down below who would win. Comment down below your thoughts on this video. Was I wrong on anything? Let me know what you guys think. I read all the comments, so thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great week, and I'll see you all in the next video.